Hey everyone, I got this week two questions that I would like to try and answer from the students. The first questions, which received quite a lot of support from the student, is your approach, my approach, is your approach close to modern mainstream thinking in history? What school of thought are you advocating so that I can learn more about its development? It's hard for me to say to which school of thought this course belongs and my thinking belongs. It's influenced by so many different, not only schools of thought in history, but also in other disciplines, such as economics and biology and so forth. So it's very hard to say. What I can say is that I think my approach can be described as bio-global, a bio-global approach. What does it mean, bio-global? It means that it gives a lot of importance to biology, to biological factors and questions when looking at history. Now, it doesn't subject history to biology. There is today, I think, a dangerous tendency to try and explain human history and human society and human culture only in biological terms as a function of evolution and genetics and neurocircuits in the brain. I think this is very dangerous because we lose sight of the most interesting and complicated phenomena of history if we try to reduce it to just biological factors. But on the other hand, I do think that it is of immense importance to take biology into account when we try to understand human society and human history. And I see history as a direct continuation of biology. So this is the bio in the name bio-global. Now global because my approach is to look at the totality of history and at the totality of humankind to raise questions which are not limited to a particular period, to a particular religion, to a particular society, but to try and look at the big picture. Now, there are things which you can study only when looking very carefully at microphenomena. I'm not saying that there is no place for these kinds of studies. They are very important. Without them, we don't have the materials to start building big structures and a big picture. But one defect of historical research, or in the second half of the 20th century, is that people were afraid of asking big questions and of creating big narratives of history. Almost everybody were just concerned about very specific issues. And this is very unfortunate because, at least in my view, the really important and interesting questions of history are the big questions. So this is why I characterize my approach to history as being bio-global. It is rooted in the connection between history and biology, and it tries to take the whole picture, the whole of history, the whole of planet Earth into account. There are, of course, other scholars that are taking this approach, the bio-global approach. The one who influenced me most and actually made me into a global historian is not an historian, it's Jared Diamond, whose background is more in geography and ecology and the study of birds. And his studies, most famously Guns, Germs and Steel, they showed me how you can really approach the totality of history to pose very big questions and to try and answer them, again, using insights, using information gleaned not only from the study of history itself, but also from the study of other disciplines, especially in the natural sciences, in the life sciences, like biology and evolution and ecology and so forth. So this is the answer to the first question. Well, the second question is about the internet. Would you consider the internet as the fourth pillar of human unification, in addition to money and empires and religion? Now, we will discuss the technological breakthrough of the late 20th century and early 21st century and their impact on society and politics and culture in the last lesson of this course. But I would like to refer to this idea of the internet being a fourth pillar, a fourth way of human unification here now. The internet certainly represents the final stage, or what might be the final stage in the process of human unification. Today, the world is already a single unit. It's a single economic unit. It's a single ecological, political, cultural unit. This is what makes the internet possible, and the internet in turn strengthens this process, makes the world even more unified, binds all the people in the globe together even more forcefully. But what we should realize is that the internet basically is a technology. It's a tool. There were previous technologies that were used to connect people together, maybe less efficiently, like phones and previously print and so forth. The internet is not something completely new. And the second thing that we need to realize is that the internet is made possible only by previous development in these three sectors, or these three ways of unification, in economic, in political, and in religious unification. First, we had to unify the world economically, and only then we could have established such a global network like the internet. Try to think how you could have made the internet function without a single currency governing all transactions in the world. Today it's very easy for me to buy something, say on the internet, from Amazon, because all the currencies of the world are interlinked, and it is possible with my money to convert it into dollars and to buy a book from Amazon or whatever. It would have been very, very difficult, if not impossible, to establish the internet as a kind of global marketplace unless there was already previously the needed economic infrastructure of global banking and global finance and single currency and things like that. Similarly, in political terms and in ideological terms, the internet was made possible because of the previous process of cultural and political unification. For example, very, very, very simply, the fact that I'm speaking to you in English, and even though it's not my mother tongue, and it's not the mother tongue of many of you, this is because of the British imperialism and American imperialism and so forth. So everybody, almost everybody, knows a bit of English. If it wasn't like that, it would have been very difficult to establish the internet in the first place unless there was already a kind of universal language in place. Similarly, about ideological and religious ideals. The internet, the communication like we have now, is based on mainly on the ideals of liberal humanism, on the ideals of individualism. Everybody has the right to their own opinion and to voice their own opinions, and so on and so forth. And these values are what shapes the way that the communication in the internet takes place. If the world had been ruled by, say, a communist dictatorship, you could have had an internet, a kind of computer system linking all parts of the world together, but it would have been a completely different internet, because the values that regulate, that tell people how to communicate, would have been completely different. So yes, the answer to the question is yes, the internet is very important for the process of human unification, but it is not a kind of fourth pillar, independent, different from the other three, the economic, the political, and the cultural, but it is built on their basis, on the basis of these processes that have been going on for decades and centuries and millennia.